Hello and welcome to another session here at the IPC Munich. If you have any questions on Swapcard, feel free to ask them in the chat. And that's pretty much all from me. Carsten, stage is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much. Please don't clap in advance. So my name is Carsten. Yeah, I'm working with PHP since over 15 years now. I actually started with PHP 3. Yes, I'm that old. I've seen quite a lot of things, and today I would like to talk a little bit about how to reduce boilerplate code with PHP 8. Let's just jump on in. So this is some old code. I hope you can see it well. I had to switch to light theme today because I was told it was better to read. So this is some code like PHP 5.6-ish with a lot of, yeah, you see it here. I have to scroll a little bit. A lot of things going on. Constructor, getter, setter, yada yada, the typical stuff. And yeah, so when you are a bit like me, then you probably also did stuff like that. I like to do my code quite correct. I like to do it properly, code quality, etc., checks and everything. So when my IDE tells me something, I will do it. And if it tells me to add a doc block, then I will do it. No, just kidding, of course not. But with PHP 7 and 8, we got some cool and nice things to reduce a lot of that code. Before I jump in, maybe let's quickly define what I understand under the term boilerplate code. So for me, boilerplate code is just code which is repetitive, unnecessary, verbose code which we just tend to write because we are used to it or because to overcome the shortcomings with the PHP language which we had. So for me, it's like every line that we can save is a good line. Every line less code makes our code better because we have to maintain less code. That's basically it. So let's have a look where we can start cutting down the code. So let's, with my first, I would like to start with the doc blocks. Sorry, my microphone is just going down. Okay. Better now. Yeah, doc blocks, as I said. Sometimes it's just that the IDE tells us, please add some doc blocks, or it's like, back in the days when I started with PHP, doc blocks were just necessary because PHP did not have the built-in tools to ensure type safety and everything. As you see here, I have to specify the types for everything. And yeah, it was a great help. Of course, otherwise we wouldn't have done it. It was necessary. The IDE started to adopt this. Even PHP started to adopt the doc blocks. They are not PHP native stuff, but PHP made them accessible via the Reflections API. And yeah, this is something nowadays. Let's have a look what we can do. Yeah, this is, as I said, we want to use type hinting. That's why we add the doc blocks. Or we can also add some additional information, like you see here, with the throws exception, for example. This is typical stuff which we could add. Or of course, we add information about the method, about our class there. But I actually, what I often see, and I still see quite a lot, is kind of that. So you see here, just the doc block param property 1. That does not help us at all. This is just unnecessary code. I don't know. I don't get any more information from that. That's what I would say. Let's really get rid of that, right? Or I mean, yeah, this is just for me unnecessary. What else do we have? Even worse, when we see here, we have, here I say it's an int, but here I think it should be string. This is even, it's contradicting itself. And so this is even worse because now when I'm a new developer on the project, I'm like, okay, what is correct now? Is it an int? Is it in string? I probably have to go through the code and check it out. And this costs me valuable time, which these doc blocks actually should have saved. All right, you see it again. I'm a bit behind with my slide here, I see. We also have useless doc blocks. I called them useless because now when I have with PHP 7, we all started our type hinting. I'm still adding here doc blocks because I'm used to it. I also see that a lot in code nowadays. What's that for? Actually, it doesn't really help us at all. We have the information, we have it in here. We have it there, and the information there is PHP code. It's nothing which can. I mean, if it's wrong, then I will see it immediately. If it's in the doc block, then it's just gone. And exactly. So we see it here better. So I have all the information that I have a double in here. And I hear people say, okay, they still add doc blocks because for them it's kind of a visual aid. For them it's helpful because then you have the separation between the methods or the properties, etc. Okay, I get that, but that should keep us doing wrong things, right? So in PHP Storm, for example, what we could do is we could enable this there's a small line which you can set on. It's I think method separator or something. So it helps you exactly with that cost. So this shouldn't be an excuse for us. And yeah, so if I just remove the doc blocks, we already start with making things a little more tidy. For me, basically, now I'm more used to that. Below example now, it starts getting better for me. It's not so much information my eye has to process, right? And yeah, who else as Uncle Bob would have said it better than that redundant comments are just places to collect lies and misinformation. Sounds a bit dramatic now, or a bit, I don't know, yeah. But in the core, I think what he means is if we have code, comments where we have information which is no longer necessary, then we should remove it. Otherwise, we will start collecting misinformation, as I said before, maybe we will confuse other developers because of that. Okay, so my advice, of course, let's avoid doc blocks if they add no further information. There might be some scenarios where they can be useful still. For example, I don't know, this throw exceptions annotation. When we want to mark deprecated functions, this I think is a very, very useful thing still. And of course, we use it a lot for frameworks, for ORMs, where we add some information which is kind of parsed by the underlying framework and then used to connect all the files together. This, of course, in that case, we can hardly remove it. Good news is with PHP 8, we got the attributes. So this is an example here from Symfony. It's a typical thing. You see the annotation, the route annotation. With PHP 8, we can write it now as an attribute. And I have to admit, I probably it will take a while since I get used to that syntax. It looks a bit odd, but yeah, basically that's how it is. I think they had their good reasons to do it. The thing now with attributes is that attributes are part of PHP. They are a native language construct, and so they are not just put on top. They are native PHP. And the good thing is here, as you can see, what I could do is I could use, for example, class constants in the attributes. This is for me, so I don't have to write some string. You see it in the example before. I wrote a string here. Of course, it's much cleaner if I can use class constants, then I have this in one place and not written as a string somewhere. So one argument less for doc blocks. Okay, let me just drink a little bit. All right, so about doc blocks. Now to the second big ones. The getters and setters, as you can see here. We have, I'm sorry, I suck at giving names, so I just give it property 1, and I hope that's okay for you guys. So why do we do this? Why do we use getters and setters, or why did we use them? We wanted to have this kind of type safety, because, as I said, back in the days, we could not use type hinting, so it was a good way to ensure that, for example, here, I'm checking in the setter, if it's not an int, then I throw an exception. So it's a lot of code which I have to write just because PHP had some shortcomings. And another example could be read-only properties. This is, for example, when you have an immutable object and you want just to have a property which can only be set once during the initialization of the object, but then never changed again. So this could also be a use case for that. But when you look at it, So I removed here the doc blocks because we don't need them anymore, as we saw before. And with type hinting now, yeah, oops, I'm sorry. With type hinting now, where was I? Oh man, this was too much. I don't know how that happened. Okay, anyway, so here we go. So when you look at that, I have no type hinting, and I can remove this part here where I check what type of variable that is, what type of value. So the getters and setters here are suddenly quite simple, right? They're quite dump setters, just doing some really nothing fancy, no logic in it. They're just here because they're here. And so I thought, okay, what could we do to reduce that? And actually, what I came up with was just dump them. Just don't use them anymore because, for example, I have here a small data transfer object, my DTO, and all I want to do with this DTO is to send it around, have some data put into and data read out of it. If it's so simple in this case, why use getters and setters at all? For me, you might be a different opinion, and that's cool. We can discuss it afterwards. But I think I had to get used to that a bit. This was for me like somebody who used getters and setters for many years. I was like, wow, wait a minute, this is wrong. But the more I think about it, I would say, no, that is right. I see no reason to use getters and setters here anymore if I have such a simple use case, of course. So I can use it, and this looks pretty odd for me in the at first I was like, okay. But that's, yeah, basically we can use it. We can use the properties very simple. There is nothing which speaks against it. So for me, it's like more giving up a habit, maybe giving up smoking, or I don't know, giving up JavaScript. But could they still be useful? I mean, is this the only reason? Maybe I can get some input from you on that afterwards. But for me, I was like, okay, I thought about it. What I sometimes see is that getters are misused a little bit to transform or to cast or to format the value a bit differently. As you can see here, I have this get timestamp, and I have this getter state where I basically write the timestamp as state. For me, this is not a getter. It uses the term get, but other than that, it's not that. It's a different type of function. So this is not something where I would say this. Yeah, it can be counted as getter. We should use probably a different class for that. We should probably use something else for that, but not in this class here. And the other thing which I already mentioned was the immutable objects. This is just a very simple construct here. As you can see, I can only initialize the value during construction time. After that, I'm only able to retrieve it via the getter. Okay, this yeah, sounds like a valid use case to me. Luckily, with PHP 8, we got the read-only properties. And I think this is really a super cool thing because it does exactly that, what I just did before. I don't need this getter anymore. I can say it's a public property, but it's read-only. So it can only be initialized during the construction time, and afterward, no more. After that, it cannot be changed anymore. And this is exactly what I want when I want to have a mutable object. And this is quite done with this read-only property. So you can see we already saved some more code. Okay, let me check the time. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so basically when I do this, I create my instance. As you see here, I initialize it in the constructor. I can echo it. But when I try to change it afterwards, I will get a fatal error, and this time it's an error, not an exception, like in my example before. So this is, again, it's a language construct, and it's part of PHP now. This is super safe. So I can really save quite some lines of code. Okay, but we are not done yet. So we reduce our DTO quite a bit. As you can see, it's much clearer. But when you look at it now, you might see two things. One thing, we have to write the same name over and over again. It's basically the whole DTO just contains of one property, but I have to write its name 4 times. And also I have to state the type 2 times. So this is not really efficient, and I think this is what the PHP people also thought. What we can do now is a really cool thing, which is called the constructor property promotion. And what we basically do is we can move the visibility definition and the type into the I knew I would struggle here, into the initialization of the constructor. And yeah, basically what I see here now is I just, by doing this little thing, I reduce the number of names to 1 and the number of type hint also to 1. So this is, I mean, going back to it, you see it here. It's, I think, yeah, quite some code saved, right? What's also cool about the initializers is that we can use now the new expression here in the constructor. So this is a common example. I have a service here, and I want to have a logger, and because it's easier to test, what we can do is, if I don't inject the logger here, I can just create a null logger, which basically just eats up the messages I want to log and just degrades gracefully, so nothing happens. This I see a lot, and I use a lot myself. This can be written now, and this is quite a new feature. It's PHP 8.1, and it's not even yet fully accepted. I think it's still an RFC, but it's more or less clear that it will come because it's part of the release candidate. So with PHP 8.1, the latest release candidate, you can do this. And this is also a lovely feature. I can, as you can see, again, 2 lines just saved because of that. And what I particularly like is that I can see all the information I need to know. I can see it in the constructor definition, not somewhere at the top of the class and then at the bottom of the class. It's all in the constructor. For me, that is really clear and nice. Okay, I can also combine that, and then you see that I have now this really long private read-only logger, null logger. It's quite a long thing, but again, the information is in one place, not here where it is like spread across. I think that's also quite useful. Okay, so let me drink another bit of water. We did quite some cleanup now, but we are not at the end yet, because PHP 8 has some more features for us, which I would like to show you. This is a typical switch block. And yeah, with PHP 8, we get the match expression. So what it is, it's just, we can omit a lot of words like case and message and break. You see it's written over there a couple of times. This is quite redundant. With this very compact kind of expression, we can reduce quite some lines of code here. But what's important to know is that match is an expression. So it returns a value which I have, or which I can collect in a variable, but I don't have to. Yeah, I can omit the message variable, and for example, I can then do this. This is just another made-up example, and I can also call functions from the match expression, and then I don't. Obviously, then if I don't return any value, then I don't need a variable to get my result. So I think you can hardly go with fewer lines of code than that. Another beauty which I would like to show you is the null save operator. So this is, if you take your programming seriously, and if you have nested objects, then you have to do something like this. You have to check which every object you receive, is it not null, or some other checks. At least you have to make sure that the object which you receive is correct, is initialized. Otherwise, you will run into errors. So this is quite some code which you have to write here. With the null save operator, this is this question mark and the arrow. It gets really short. So basically, all you have to do to write is this. And the cool thing is when, for example, get address would return null, it would degrade to null. So it would not display anything, but it would not end up in an error. Yeah. So, and also for people like me who don't use getters anymore, we can use it on objects. So it's basically the same. I think we can also save a lot of frustration with that. So can only recommend it. The last thing which I would like to show you now is what is called named arguments. So this is an example of a URL class, which basically, has a lot of attributes. This is, of course, not the best way to code. This you could already consider as a code smell if a constructor has so many arguments. It's not so good, but sometimes it happens. Okay, what's the problem with that? If I want to instantiate that object, I need to write a lot of things. I have to write HTTPS, although it's already default. I have to put null there sometimes and stuff like that. Yeah, it's not really good readable. It's a lot of typing. I don't like it. So what we can do now with PHP 8 is that we can use named arguments. So basically I just put the name of the argument which I want to initialize, put the value behind it, and then that's it. The rest will be either taking the default or will be nulled. And this is also, I think, okay, this is maybe an edge case, but I think it's quite useful also for these kind of classes. And I like the syntax, it's quite elegant. Okay, so to recap what we just heard so far. So what I think, you might not need doc blocks anymore. Really consider it. Sometimes you probably do, but not all the time anymore. Getter setters is, this is maybe up to some debate. I would only recommend not to use them anymore if you don't really need them. Consider using constructor property promotion. This is, I really think, really kick-off feature. We got the read-only properties, and we got some cool things like I just showed you, null safe operator, match expression, and the named arguments. Okay, that's the first. I would now like that. Oh, there's a question.
Yeah, we got a question in the chat. Question about constructor variables promotion. Won't these promotions, especially with initialization and new, will negatively affect readability and coding flow in general? It's kind of nice to have such syntax sugar, but it's an implicit regarding to the class signature, magic and underscore will underscore be abused. What do you think?
I don't know how this could be abused, to be honest. I saw some of you guys nodding. If you have some idea what... I mean, the thing is you don't have to use it, right? It's you can use it. I don't see where this... actually, I don't understand the question, to be quite honest.
If you want to, you can just read it here.
Yeah? Okay. Okay. Well, if you think it's not readable, then of course you shouldn't use it. I think it is. This is probably kind of personal taste, especially when you have larger classes. Then when you have to scroll around between constructor and the property definitions on top. Yeah, but again, it's personal taste, and with that it will be abused, I don't see that, because who forces you to do that? It's a bit sad that you are not around here. I would really like to discuss it with you more in detail, because I think maybe we're talking about not the same things, but yeah, that's the downside of a remote attendance, I guess. Okay, then I would like to do some coding now, live coding. Oh, and this will hopefully not go totally wrong, but let me quickly switch here. Okay, I just need to change my display settings. Okay. So what I have here is, I hope you can read it well. I switched to white theme again because of readability. This is more or less the same stuff which we already saw. We do have some service here which has some properties, which the only thing which might be interesting here is that in this case here I try to emulate this kind of read-only by saying when I have the setter here, it just checks if this is already set, and if not, if it is already set, then it will throw an exception. But other than that, this is quite straightforward. We do have some lame processing function here at the end, just that this service does something. But that's not the important thing. The important thing is that I want to show you what I just talked about. Also here, I do have some tests. Now this is my make script here, don't bother about it. It's just basically I'm executing the PHP unit here inside my Docker container, which is a PHP 8.1 RC something. Okay, let's go. So what we already saw is what I would like to first start with is to add type hinting. Of course, this class here is super old, and the first thing I want to do is type hinting. This will now take a little bit. I figured out while testing this, I should have used probably, I don't know, maybe just one property, but yeah, that's how it is. So here I am, and typing in front of you, and this is really, really awkward, typing in front of people, but I will get used to that. Okay, so luckily it's not that much. String, oops. All right, so here. Okay. Yeah, here we can do it as well. And yeah, once I have the type properties, the type hinting, what I can do, of course, or what I should do, is declare strict. Oops. And then I can remove these doc blocks here. And then let's test afterwards with our test if something has changed here. So what I keep now the exception, this throws exception. We will see it will disappear in a minute anyway, but let's do it step by step. Same I do here, and same I do here. This is also some useless comment, right? Put this here intentionally, of course, so I can remove that, and here as well. So already we reduced, and this is also kind of rubbish here, which we can remove. So it has reduced a little bit already. Let's run our tests. And no, it goes wrong. This was to be expected because what I now did, and I'm looking for my mouse pointer now. Here. What we did now is by using this kind of type hinting here in the constructor. What I cannot do anymore is I cannot access, or I cannot initialize. I cannot access this variable before it was initialized. But I actually don't really understand why, but this is how it goes. I mean, this will be replaced by the read-only property anyways in a minute, so I can safely remove that and say, okay, still have some error in here, and this is because now I don't throw an exception anymore. Where was my test? Now I need to also adjust my tests. And please don't get me wrong, I'm not the person who would test getters and setters. Yes, this is just to make it more visible what happens here. Usually I would not do that. So because this is a bit bullshit. Okay, so now we have one risky test. This was the one where I just removed the exception. This is not a problem. We will change this to error in a minute. Next, what we would like to do is that I would use the property the promotion, the constructor property promotion here, and putting this public here, this also public, and this was the one property where I would like to have it read-only. And of course, I now need, because you see already here, starts complaining, I now need to remove these. And now the beauty happens for me. What I can do, since these are now public, what I can do is I can remove all the getters and setters here. For me, they don't really, I don't really care. I also don't care about the string here because I should have removed this one step before. Because I don't need this anymore, I have now the type hint in here, so that's cool to remove. Let's do that. Okay, that's already quite condensed. Let's run the tests. I hope it will run. Oh no, we do have some errors here, but this was also to be expected because now I'm trying to call in my tests the setters and getters, which I don't have anymore. So I also have to type here a little bit. So give me a minute to change that. Again, I would not test getters and setters normally. This is really just because because I want to show you what happens here. And the bad thing is that because I have the parentheses here, PHP Storm tries to give me, when I do this here, I cannot access my properties. I have to really remove the parentheses and do this then. Okay, but we are going there. Almost there. If you see me missing something, then please just say, oh, sorry. Some property. Okay. What I can do here now is also, let's first do that. Set some other property. So here I'm trying to set it double times. And here I expect now it's not an exception anymore because this is now using the read-only, so I'm expecting an error here to happen. Right, let's see what happens. Let's run the tests once more. Sorry? Yeah? Another class? I don't get what you mean, sorry. Mm-hmm. Yeah, completely right. This is, sorry, thank you for your help. Yeah, of course, this is what I would then probably have seen when I read now the error messages. Yes, of course, I need to remove it here as well. And since I have this, I don't need to check anymore if this is null or not. So yes, of course, it gets even fewer. When I'm here, I can just do my, what people don't like sometimes is this stuff here. Okay. So we are already quite at the end of our work. You see here that PHP Storm is complaining that this is not allowed. This is just because I'm using not the latest build of PHP Storm, not the EAP build, although the icon here shows something different. The last EAP version crashed here on my system a lot of times, and I wanted to avoid that. So please don't, just ignore that. Okay, run the tests again. We still do have 3 errors now. And this is now something which is a bit special maybe, because it's the way of how this read-only stuff works now. What I cannot, because when as you remember, this some other property has a read-only property. When I now instantiate it, then it's already set. Yeah, so I cannot do this anymore. Although I haven't actively really set it before, it's already initialized. So what I have to do here is just to say, I do this in the constructor already. I can remove this, do the same here. Some other property here. Can remove this. This is also not necessary anymore. And check what happens. All right, we only have one little bug left, one little error in our tests. And this is because now when I'm using the constructor property promotion, this here is also not working anymore because I just don't have to pass anything. If I want to have my logger automatically instantiated, like this here, right? Then I don't need to pass anything anymore. But here again, I need now to use the named arguments, because otherwise that would not work. Because then how can I omit something without setting it? Okay, last run of my test. Yikes, we are through. And you can see now it's quite some reduction of code. I'm just opening here my backup, which I had. So if you go through this, and you now see this, this of of course, could also be removed even shorter. Okay, so, yeah. I think it should, because how can I otherwise, when I see in here in the test, because here I omitted, and I say here, but we can try it out. Let's see what happens. You mean by that, right? Okay. Because now let's check it out. Okay, because when I do this here in this test, I'm implicitly sending null to the constructor, yeah, because otherwise and this is because now it's missing here. How can I explain that? Yeah, basically. And this is then not allowed anymore when I remove the nullable here. So I think this is, yeah. Maybe there's some other way to remove that, but I think it's not such a bad thing. I also, I have to say, I found this on some page from, I don't know what, was it even PHP net, where they also use, I stole some of the examples here I have to admit. Okay, cool.
There are some comments in the chat.
Yeah,
maybe
please.
that helped. Somebody said, oh, they just deleted it. When you don't set a variable, you are giving null to it. Maybe that helps. I don't know.
Yeah, I think this would, yeah, said a bit better than I tried here. Okay, but thanks for the comment. Are there more comments? Okay. So from my side, guys, that's actually it. Let me switch back here. Yes, please. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for being here in this session. I'm happy to connect with everybody. I'm happy to discuss topics like these. If you like, if you think this is totally rubbish what I just told, then you can approach me. I'm also happy about any feedback. If you like to talk, let me know. If you didn't like to talk, let me also know. This helps me also a lot. Other than that, I would say thank you very much.
We just got a question in the chat. Is there some tool to do some of these code transformations automatically?
Yeah. There probably is. So you could, for example, use PHP CS Fixer, which, for example, I did this now manually when I removed the doc blocks. So there's a tool to remove dead code. I think it's even default in CS Fixer. So you can use that one. Another cool tool which I would really like to recommend is Rector. This is from the guys from Thomas Struber. This is an awesome tool. Which I can only, I just started using that tool. I just scratched the surface, but this is one of the coolest tools. I can only recommend everybody to check that out. There you can also I'm not sure if there are already any rules in Rector to do these kind of things. I guess so, because you can switch between PHP versions with that tool. So you can, for example, say, it's a bit like transpiling what we do in JavaScript. You can say I'm working locally on 8.1 because I want to use the newest stuff, and then I can transpile it back to, I don't know, PHP 7.4 because my production container has just PHP 7.4 in it. So this is one tool which you could also use for that, I guess. But I haven't tried that out now. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time in the preparation phase.
Do we have a question in the room? Okay.
Thanks for your lecture. I have a question. You mentioned we can have access directly to a property in a class, and I like it. But I think if I wrote a code like that one, if a guy review my code in my team, they will say, okay, oh, this is terrible. It should break some rule, like hiding or I don't know, something like
absolutely.
this. And help me to answer. I like your idea. This is good. We should use get answered.
Yeah, of course, this is also a little bit of provocation what I'm doing here, right? I'm not exactly, because I would be probably the same person as you just described. When I see that, I would say, what, public property? Are you crazy or what? But when you just think about it, I mean, yeah, of course, if it's, for example, if it's just a data transfer object, the whole purpose is just to make this kind of data transferable between, I don't know what, some classes. And why should I waste time writing code which basically does not help me in any way? But I cannot really, I cannot give you this one argument where I would say, yeah, this is it. Just if reducing code from, I don't know, 120 lines to 20 lines isn't argument enough, then I probably can't help, so to say. Because I would say really, as I said in the beginning, each line of code which we save is a good line of code. We have to test less, we have less error prone, we have less errors maybe in the code, less code to process from the mind. Yeah, when you sit in front of a huge class like we have here, oh no, you cannot see it anymore. But the big one, and you have to read through it and, oh gosh, this is getter, this is setter, okay. It takes time. If we make it short, then it doesn't require so much time.
And I think it should happen also when I remove all add blocks in my codes, and someone can say, "Oh, what are you doing here? Why you remove all add blocks?"
Yeah, I think if you just start doing this on your next pull request, then you probably will run into problems, because then I don't know. I'm not sure in what company you work. For example, if somebody from my team would come up with that, I would say, okay, let's discuss it. Yeah, and then I'm happy to be convinced that the things which I did in the past are no longer relevant. So, and this, as I said, for me it was the same when I came up with this idea. Was like, okay, why do I still do it? Yeah, but I need somebody to help me with that. So maybe if you with your peers, you can make a little session in your company saying, look, I had this talk the other day and some strange guy came up with this idea of just having everything public. Let's discuss that. Yeah, maybe then you can get some acceptance for that. You're welcome.
Another thing is that accessing properties directly can be much faster than calling methods always. So
good point.
When you have a lot of access to these properties, and you need more performance, this might also be an option with PHP 8.
Would be interesting to test that, yeah. Thank you.
So, thank you very much. Are there any other questions here in the room? I don't see any. So, from my point of view, thank you very much, Carsten, for the informative talk. And I hope to see you all in the next session. Bye-bye.